Joining me now is Dr. Aditi Malhotra from Toronto, Canada. She is a fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. Aditi, there is so much speculation about how the political landscape will change when U.S. President-elect Donald Trump returns to the Oval Office, but the drama has already unfolded. What do you think this means for Canada with Trump's return?
Thank you for having me, Anita. With Trump actually re-entering the Oval Office next year, Canada will face renewed pressure when it comes to the threat of tariffs or the mounting pressure on Canada to increase its military spending. And this is a familiar playbook that we've seen previously. During the previous Trump administration, Canada has renegotiated the NAFTA, which eventually gave us the CUSMA, the Canada-US-Mexico agreement. And it wasn't the best of negotiations because we were dealing with tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum industry, and also the softwood lumber. And Canada also imposed retaliatory tariffs, which costed almost $16.6 billion.
Yeah. Well, he's also very enthusiastic about social media. Now it's Truth Social, his platform. Ahead of his social media post about making Canada a 51st state, he previously took aim at Chrystia Freeland, the now former finance minister, saying, and I quote, "Her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada." That may have folks wondering just how those negotiations went when they were renegotiating NAFTA, which is now known as USMCA, as you noted, or as the Canadians say, CUSMA.
So what we see on social media is Trump being Trump. He definitely has a quirky sense of humor, and talking seriously, his discussions on social media about Canada would be quite an affront to any sovereign country. But considering that it's Trump's style of humor, that's something which we are all used to by now. When it comes to negotiations, of course, it's no secret that Trump wasn't a fan of the former Deputy Minister of Canada and also the Economic Minister, Chrystia Freeland. And with her now not being a part of the renegotiation, it would be interesting because she was a very important and a key figure during the last negotiations. And during the recent Mar-a-Lago interactions, we did not see her there. So that definitely, gave an idea of what was to come. And what we're looking at ahead is going to be even more intense, as I said, with the new leadership, with a new economic and finance minister. We would see something more different now, along the same lines, though.
Well, that brings me beautifully to my next question. We've had the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, from Canada's largest province, essentially saying that with all these threats, these tariff threats from Trump, that he is ready to fight back. We've seen this before, right?
Oh, for sure. We did see Canada imposing retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. In 2018. And to be very frank, even though, the whole trade war and the tariffs war seem doable and practical in the short term, but it actually is not the best when it comes to the long-term consequences. Mm-hmm. Looking at how dependent Canada is on the U.S. being Canada's largest trading partner, yeah. And their annual trade figures are almost amounting to like $700 billion mm-hmm. annually. So we're looking at a very intertwined relationship where almost 70 to 75% of Canadian, exports are actually going to the U.S. So any trade war and tariffs on Canadian goods, which would make them more expensive in the U.S. and make them less competitive in the U.S. market, would harm and considerably the Canadian economy, because it has the potential to harm the key Canadian industries, such as automotive, steel, manufacturing, and it can also disrupt trade and the integrated supply chains between the two countries. So I think the key for the Canadian leadership is to balance Canadian interests mm-hmm. and protect its own industry while maintaining a good relationship with the US. So this is a high stakes scenario, and it has to be dealt with very sensibly.
And the world is watching, right, Dr. Malhotra? Of course, this is right now Canada bearing the brunt of the tariff talk, of the insults essentially that are being hurled at members of the government in Canada. The world is watching because they know and perhaps fear they could be next.
For sure. I think what we're seeing right now is a case study for the world to extract some lessons for them itself. With Trump, tariff being his favorite word and his functional tool for negotiations, we would see him use the same strategies when it comes to negotiating with his allies and other partner countries. He's already threatened the BRICS as well. So the BRICS countries are also definitely very closely going to look at what's happening between US and Canada and extract the relevant lessons.
Dr. Malhotra, as many folks get ready for the holidays, and we know that members of Parliament are also on holiday break, what do you think we can expect in the new year?
So this is a holiday season which may not be as peaceful for a lot of folks in the political realm. So we're likely to see Prime Minister Justin Trudeau face mounting pressure to step down, specifically given his low approval ratings and his leadership, which is already under question by public and his own party, clearly shows that this is his biggest political test to date. So we would be looking at more intense maneuvering at the political level within the Liberal Party, and that would raise questions about Justin Trudeau's ability to unite the party or ability to continue with new leaders for some ministries. We may also see increased pressure on the leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, who is actually keeping the Trudeau government in power by withholding the no confidence motion, because they fear that their party may also not come back to power. So it is a very interesting tug of war right now. But apart from the political maneuvering that we would see in the interim, we would get clearer answers only in 2025 when the parliament resumes.
You talk about the NDP. Of course, the Liberals are governing with the help of the NDP, but it's the Conservatives. It's the Conservative Party of Canada that many believe stands to gain here if, in fact, an election is called. And you got to wonder if, in fact, the Prime Minister will call an election, because you alluded to the polls, you alluded to his low approval rating as it pertains to Trudeau. But Pierre Poilievre, he must be quite excited right now.
Yes, when it comes to the political scenario, for the Conservatives, this seems to be a good opportunity in case there is, a situation where the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, actually steps down. That would be an opportunity for the Conservatives to build on the momentum that they've created so far. And they have had, very good approval ratings so far. So they're definitely looking at an interesting and a more optimistic period if Trudeau steps down as the Prime Minister.
Certainly not a happy holiday season, especially not for the Liberal Party, right?
Oh, yes, of course. To be very frank, what's happening in Canada right now, the political upheaval and the chaos, is definitely not good for the country overall. But when we specifically look at the political spectrum, I think we have, some losses and some wins here. So Christmas is definitely a very interesting period for Canada this year. For a lot of folks looking at Justin Trudeau being cornered by a lot of resignations from his own party, it's akin to Santa, showing his magic. And for a lot of others, it is more about just Grinch being Grinch.
Exactly.
So it depends on where you are on the political spectrum.
Yeah, it definitely looks like the Grinch is stealing the spotlight right now. Dr. Aditi Malhotra, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your analysis and your time, and look forward to our next chat.
Thank you for having me, Anita.